This is a Pyramid One International Network presentation.
Gentlemen, star family Agartha neighbors, sentient beings from all dimensions in time and space, the psychedelic dolphin man, the man with a plan, a super soldier for the light, a legend in his own mind, a true healer with hands of light and a golden touch, the world's most sincere radio host, broadcasting from Earth inside the mothership to the galactic central sun. The voice of the resistance, His Divine Grace Sri Sri Sri, Rob Potter.
Hello, folks. Once again, this is Robert Potter, your host from the Victory of Light radio show. I'm broadcasting now from my residence in Mount Shasta, California. I'm finally settled in here after my long journeys to Bolivia and traveling around Orange County and taking care of some stuff. I'm in full-blown promotion mode for the event in Mount Shasta. We talk about this pretty much every radio show, but I'd like you to definitely check it out. I've been interviewing some of the speakers, and today's no difference. We're going to get to my next guest, Jenesee Roy. I'm going to blow you away with this lady. Some amazing stuff going on here. But first, I'd like to talk about the orphanage in Tanzania that I help support. The gentleman named Christopher Kalla. This is not a scam. I call him up on Skype quite often, and he's on his phone out in the fields tilling the land with a stick. He is responsible for about 30 children, and they have about 30 widows who come and help take care of the orphans as well. So through the years, people have helped develop a property with him. He has some nice high walls. The children are safe, but they have lots of needs, including school fees. And now the website is down. I paid for some of this in the past, and I'm paying for the domain name, but we need to cover the website costs. We need some money there. We also need, they need a water tank to put water in because the hose only works some of the time, and then they have to stop the children from going to school to pick up water. These are beautiful, innocent children from the Sadala orphanage in Tanzania, right across the border from Ethiopia, where Christopher's from. You can look back in my radio show archives and check it out. And I would really like you, if you have trouble reaching him, the website's down, but if you click on the link, you should be able to go, and there's an email address for him. So, in fact, I think I'm going to pull that up while we're talking right here. For those of you who are ready, I'm going to ask you to get your pen and pencil, and I'm going to give you the address of Christopher Kalla. And the way that you get his name, it's not spelled like it normally is. It's actually K.Ristofa@yahoo.com. Please email him. Tell him you'd like to help the children. He takes money through a PayPal, or you can get the money to him through a Western Union. So he can give you the information. I have nothing to do with the money. I don't touch it. I want it all to go to him and the children. And they really need help there. If you want to do something tangible for people, these innocent children who have been orphaned through no fault of their own, through AIDS, accidents, problems, no parents. Christopher's taken them in, and they have a place. Very humble. They have their clothes, and they're sleeping on mats on the floor. There's a lot of service that can be done there. So once again, it's sadalaorphanage.org. That's on the front page. You see the picture of the children waving. Click on that, and just email him is the best way until we get the website up and functioning. I've sent some money in the last few months, and I'm kind of tapped out. So anyone wants to help out there, that's that. Okay, I've done my little good deed for the day, and now I'd like to mention, of course, folks, we're doing the Mount Shasta conference, and it's going to be amazing. We got Raymond Keller. He is a contactee on steroids, just unbelievably humble, kind, gentle, humble, sweet. Did I mention humble? Just a wonderful man with tremendous experience. He's a scholar, a historian. He's lived in 44 countries, speaks several languages, and he's lived on Venus for 2.5 months. And he has some amazing documentation and stories we're going to be sharing at the conference. He's going to be bringing some new information to light in regards to George Adamski and some of the other famous contactees. We're going to have Frank Chili, Sherry Lynn, George Filer, Ralph and Marsha Ring, myself, and Scott Warner, and let's not forget Jenesee Roy, who I have here today. So I'm going to give you a little introduction to her. I was mentioned to her to contact her through Ray, and I was just amazed and pleasantly surprised to find such a wonderful person as Jenesee. I'm going to read you her biography here a little bit and give you some of her links so you can check it out. Having unknowingly developed her clairvoyant gifts at a very young age, Jenesee has always been drawn to the metaphysical side of life. At 16, she started studying chakra theory and other metaphysical sciences until theory took a backseat to practice. Today, she's a practicing clairvoyant and teaches others how to develop and fine-tune their own unique gifts and talents. Jenesee facilitates this unfolding by using techniques and practices focused around a person's energetic field and chakra system. Documenting her own healing journey, Jenny published her first book at 29, Root Chakra, a 94-day chakra journey. Still unfolding, the book turned into a channeled oracle deck and workbook. These tools are now used to help teach others about the energy surrounding the unique soul journey. Today, Jenesee is guided by spirit. She has found a connection between the physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual fields surrounding not only her journey, but the journey of everyone she comes in contact with. Her purpose is to help others find and cultivate a loving, trusting, and vibrant connection with Divine Source to their own authentic way. Before I bring her on here, I want to tell you she has a website and she has free books you can check out. I highly recommend you go to chakrasroot2crown.com. That's chakrasroottoCrown.com. Also, she works at a spa. It's called Walden Spa in Ohio, and her workshops and things there are at www.yourwalden, like it's Walden Pond, walden.com. And she also has a YouTube channel called Wellness Walden. You can check that out. And I think she has a chakra deck, and there's an app on Android or Apple you can get called Chakra Deck. And she also has a radio show, and I guess I'm going to be on there on the 22nd. It's called the Wellness Hour on KRMA Radio. It's kind of like Karma. So let me just fill you in, folks. Jenesee, she has this beautiful picture, and you can check her out on the speaker's biography page. These deep, piercing blue eyes. And what really caught me was the color of her hair has that kind of Venusian blonde look. She's absolutely gorgeous, stunning woman. And she's in her 30s, and she has 2 kids. She's successful in her career. She is not the airy-fairy psychic that you hear about or the New Age person. And as Dr. Raymond mentioned to me, and I have to agree, she is the new level of the female divine energy coming forward with some tremendous energies. So I'm going to welcome her to the show here, and then we're going to find out about her history. She grew up in Orange County, Irvine, about 7 miles away from my hometown. So we have a lot in common here. Formerly of Orange County, Lady Jenesee Roy, welcome to the Victory of Light radio show.
Thank you so much. I'm sitting here growing in anticipation with everything you say from the charity, and I have so much love for you for doing that and the good work you do. It takes a strong person to donate their time, efforts, and monetary value to others. So thank you for doing that. That's a big purpose and passion of mine as well. So thank you so much. And then thank you for the beautiful introduction.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure here. So I actually started pretty early myself. It was around 16. I met my spiritual guide, who was a kind of a reincarnation of Atlantean scientist, and his great uncle invented the telephone. His father invented the alternator and the automatic transmission for Henry Ford, and he was a NASA rocket scientist, among other things. And I met him about the time he had already quit NASA and the government, JPL, and Rockwell, where he worked, and he was working with the extraterrestrials. So my experiences started at 16. Let's talk about your interest and where you were. Was it Laguna Beach's Fahrenheit 451 bookstore that you got your metaphysical books, or what kind of got you going?
Yeah, so I wish my journey was so internal. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone helping me through. At 5 years old, I started having migraines, and so we'll go right into chakra theory. So in chakra theory, when people hit the age range of like 42 to 47, they're kind of in that last developmental stage of spiritual expansion, and this is where a lot of people start to have experiences of midlife crisis, and they start reflecting on their life and realizing that they haven't accomplished everything they want to, or have that feeling of emptiness, or what am I doing in life? And for women, a lot of times they start to have migraines, right? And migraines as a chakra illness is this fight of the seat of the soul. It's the fight of divine will and purpose coming into the life. And so I had that at 5 years old, and then developed from migraines, insomnia, and lots of illnesses of resistance. And so by blocking everything, I actually then, when I became a teenager, started desperately seeking to no avail from any mentors or guides, and just happened to fall into painting and arts. And then that manifested a chakra book into my life, because of course chakras kind of have that rainbow color scheme, and it's something I held on to at age 16. Like you said, it was for you. And through that one book until my early 20s, I just became extremely intuitive in no other means but an internal world that opened up for me through the chakra system, and a deep connection to manifesting dysfunction to learn what true, authentic connection was.
Well, that is probably an understatement. Without requesting it, Jenesee gave me a reading, and I have to tell you, she was really connecting into a lot of stuff for me, which is very accurate. I didn't give her a lot of detail on my stuff, and I found it very accurate. So I'm looking here. You've got. I guess I'm looking at the. You've got these different books here. I'm gonna just kind of open up one of them here. The root to crown chakra here. Where did it go? There it is. So, can you tell us what? I guess it's the 99-day chakra journey.
Yeah. So the books, and I didn't really, I didn't have perspective on this until very recently, how these 3 books had been written or downloaded. As we can say a lot of times for writing a book, it was all downloaded through process and then just living the experience of life and then recording it. And so I have 3 books. The first one that you're discussing is The Root to Crown, a 94-day chakra journey. And that book really encapsulates the 3D or third-dimensional human reality of seeking for understanding and spirituality. It is the crisis moment that I experienced in my life at, don't laugh at me, at age 23 or 25 or however old I was, that triggered me into full expansion into this unseen, subjective, spiritual world. And it started because my life was, from an outside-in perspective, perfect. I had achieved the highest level I could in directing a spa and wellness resort. I was at the height of my career and basically couldn't go any higher. I had just had, I think, my second child. I had what I thought was a fantastic marriage, and it was just like the perfect house, the perfect life. And I had that knees on the ground moment to God, saying, "Okay, how do you want to use me? I've got it all, and now I want my purpose." And as I'm sure you've discussed or experienced in your own path, when we surrender like that, really divine steps in pretty quickly and aligns us to our path. And how that happens for most people who haven't done the spiritual work up into that point and think they're living this perfect life, everything around you that is dense, that needs to be released, that needs to be either re-engaged or disconnected, everything energetically comes up. And this becomes, in spiritual terms, people call it the spiritual emergency, the dark night of the soul. It's that phoenix moment, the crisis moment, the midlife crisis. All of these terms can explain kind of what happens to the individual that is ready to surrender to their divine purpose and divine path. And so this book, as soon as I had that knees on the ground moment asking for, my purpose in life, I started bringing through at night. It was one night right before Cinco de Mayo. And I had this page of just the first page of the book kept repeating itself over and over in my head. And I could not sleep. And it was, way early in the AM. And at this point, I just keep getting these first 2 paragraphs, literally sentence for sentence in my head, how they need to be written. And I said to the pages flowing in, I said, okay, if you let me go to sleep, I promise to you tomorrow, I will sit down and start writing. And so I did, and I had no clue each day what I was writing, the adventure I was going on. But basically, my divine team had come through, and through clairaudience, I was hearing everything. And then I'd go into deep meditation and get clairvoyance and see things as well. And my divine team was basically, through my life, taking me on a 94-day journey of clearing my energetic chakra column so that I could be a clear, authentic channel to bring through the higher level work that I was destined for. And so that first book is what I call my 3D book, because it documents exactly what I went through in the self-healing journey to clear myself as the human, as the soul personality, the vibration here in this human plane. And then the other two books would be my 4D experience and my 5D experience.
Well, the first book, is very interesting. You say were you 23 or 24 when this happened?
Something. Time is a interesting concept for me. So yeah, it was either 23. I think it was 23. 23 or 25 is jumping out in my head.
Well, that's great. So you have, you still have the perfect job, the perfect marriage, and everything's good with the kids, right? No major dramas there.
Yeah, no, but in the book, you see and read my poor husband, my poor husband. He is the catalyst. As anybody in a relationship knows, the individual opposite you is the mirror to what's going on within your internal world. And so poor guy is the catalyst for every experience within that book. And there was a lot of it. There were times when it was, are we going to make it or are we not going to make it? And he chose to up level and go on the path of spirituality with me, which I'm thankful for and blessed for. Yeah. Because a lot of people, you have to lose those relationships along the way because they're not ready to go on that journey of higher frequency with you. Well,
that's good. He's around your age, right?
He is. He's 40 this year. I'm 35. So yes.
So the good news is, yeah. So, he was young enough at the time that you guys could make that evolutionary jump. That's really good. I'm really glad and happy to hear that for you. Where were you in Orange County at the time, or you were already back in Ohio in your career and married at that point, huh?
Yeah, 2006, I moved from LA to here in Ohio. So yes, I was out here a few years into living out here.
Well, that's exciting. So let's go and talk about your next book a little bit. And I want to, I guess that we could give a little bit. You have some clearing techniques in that first book too that people can use, or it's kind of based on your own experience, right?
Yeah. So that book actually facilitated one of the most powerful workshops I've ever brought through that's recorded, that's completely free for anybody to access. And it is just probably the most transformational thing I've watched people move through. And it's a 7-week chakra course. So in the book, it documents my going through week by week and how Divine was walking me through each of these. In the beginning of the week, they'd have me sit down and meditate and connect on certain things. They'd have me live through the week. And then at the end of the week, they'd have me document on everything. And then they'd come in and walk me through everything in a higher perspective as to what I was holding in that energetic vortice center of that chakra that I was working on that week. And so I lived it in the book. And then after the book was written and I had all of the experiences, I was guided to then create these meditations for people, this 7-week chakra workshop. And it basically takes you root chakra to crown chakra, and there's 3 meditations each week. They're long. They're about 45 minutes to an hour each. And it really trains somebody, because meditation is a practice that you have to train yourself in to get into those more subtle receptive levels that you need to be to really work with your own field. And so everything about this workshop really helps people tap into their own authentic resonance and start to clear things that are not serving them, so that they can become this enlightened channel to, it's my belief system that everybody's clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant, all of these quote unquote psychic type, gifts and talents. Everybody has this. They've just layered and distrusted, their own intuitive senses for so long that they no longer resonate with those things that are truth within them. And so this 7-week course really just
The 7-week course, is this in a YouTube? These are hour-long lectures, and how many, what is it? Is it a YouTube or what is it?
Yeah, so they're all audio, and I did record. So if you really want to see myself at a really interesting point, I recorded video to give people a little intro into each week before it happened, and to just let them know what's happening that week, what sacral chakra is all about, or what third eye chakra is all about. And so I recorded some videos, and it's all on my website. It's under the workshops tab of my website.
Right, I'm looking at that now.
And you go to the 7-week chakra journey, and then it'll pull you to this really colorful page, color by color. It'll walk you through all of the 7 weeks. And so there's videos, and I actually, because you can do this multiple times, and so it's my understanding that when you do this work the first time, you're really clearing and aligning your 3D reality, your human reality. If you do it a second time, you're really tapping into now your emotional body, the next level layer, right, that surrounds this human construct. And so when you do it the second time, you tap in and clear that emotional body. If you do it a third time, you're going 5D. You're clearing the mental field and really aligning to the mental field and the fifth dimensional realities that we can tap into. And so you can continue to do it and just clear more and more. And when I recorded the videos, I was clearing my emotional body at that point. And the videos are hilarious. Like you get to solar plexus chakra week, and I'm like dead. I'm like literally falling over. I think I can't even like sit up. I look like a skeleton. It's like, because that's like clearing the last level of, human density before you move into the like higher frequency energies. It's hilarious. So I never re-recorded those. I felt, why not keep it authentic?
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's great that you had these guides and to guide you through this. And it seems like you get an inner prompting and you follow through and you move forward. So there's no hesitation. And so this is really exciting. Let's, so there you have it, folks. You have a free chakra workshop guidance clearance series. I've just looked at it. Looks like you've got several shows per week, and then you also have an oracle workshop. You can check that out as well. So from this these things, you've also developed your own oracle deck. Is it your own art and descriptions of everything, of the different frequencies in a deck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after I wrote that first book, I was actually moving into the last meditation. I told you through that book, they ran me through my own 7-week process, and I documented it in that first book. And at the very end, the completion at the crown chakra, the very last meditation I was going to go into, I thought it was just going to be this airy fairy floating in clouds, like, the divine team just patting me on the back and throwing a party for me, like, yeah, you're done, woohoo, you made it. And so I go into this last crown chakra meditation and have the clouds for about 30 seconds, and then all of a sudden I get a complete download of literally seeing a chart, a 7x7 chart. And in that chart, they were showing me if you were to take a piece of graph paper, right, and down the column on the left-hand side, you wrote root, sacral, solar plexus, right, all the 7 chakras. And at the top of the paper, the column across the top, if you did the same thing and wrote root, sacral, solar plexus, all the way to crown, you get this 7x7 chart. And then they were telling me basically, so you need to make this oracle deck. And what you're going to do is take these 7 chakras, and you're going to show how each of these chakras meet each other, and one will be physical, and then it'll meet the other one in an emotional plane, and it'll create a spiritual path, a spiritual purpose. And so they gave me this whole chart to do, and then they said you're also going to make the 7 hypo cards, 7 hyper cards, because chakras can spin slow, chakras can spin fast. Chakras also have a shadow side, which are another 7 cards. They told me these 7 angels want to represent the 7 chakras, and then the balance chakra card. So they gave me all this information clearly and said, okay, now you have to go and make these cards, make this oracle deck. So the next year of my life, I spent channeling the information for each of these cards, and then I hand drew and hand painted because art is one of my passions. I created these cards as Divine wanted them created, very symbolic. And if you've seen a Rorschach blot, they look very much so like that. They are extremely high level. I, many times was questioning if I should put, a lot of oracle decks will put a number on it or a reference or a name to clue people in. And I always got, no, it has to stay high frequency. These cards were supposed to get people to tap into a higher resonance with the divine and pull through meaning. It was almost
just
an
like
activation.
it's more like an intuitive realization from the image without the intellectual word description,
yes.
right?
So there's so much symbolic imagery within it that helps connect people into concepts. And then everything, once you get those symbolic images, because root chakra is represented by the tree and solar plexus chakra is represented by a sun. And so when you see those two images, you can connect them in a certain way. And then by doing that and then seeing the image, people are supposed to be able to tap into, these
realization from the image without the intellectual word description,
yes.
right?
So there's so much symbolic imagery within it that helps connect people into concepts. And then everything, once you get those symbolic images, because root chakra is represented by the tree and solar plexus chakra is represented by a sun. And so when you see those two images, you can connect them in a certain way. And then by doing that and then seeing the image, people are supposed to be able to tap into, these conscious containers of information stored within the frequency of each card. So
yeah. So you also have in the learning, you got some. Looks like you have a series of classes to explore your psychic awareness class, your understanding your energetic field, and frequencies in the multidimensional human. I really think this is great. Let's we haven't really addressed this, but you've talked about, they. And so if you can kind of talk a little bit about the guides and what your connection is and how you relate to them. It doesn't sound like channeling, although some people would call it that. You're hearing and actually given visions of things. So your level of sensitivity and the fact that you're so grounded, really, I think, just puts you on another level here. And I think that people are going to hear about you and learn about you in ever increasing leaps and bounds until this information can get out and help as many people as your mission has intended it to. So I'm really impressed with your website, your information here. Let's go into, why don't you share with us how you contacted the guys? You've obviously had these experiences and kind of were getting communications you kind of dealt with throughout your life. But when was the real big movement of, you're in communication with someone or a group or a soul family or whatever? What is the experience that led to that?
Yeah, so this would be right before I had that crisis moment in 23 or 25, however old I was. And I knew that the last piece of my puzzle was meditation. And so I had resisted it forever. I was a yogi, yet I didn't express the mental, the spiritual part of it. I resisted quieting my mind because, I just had a really wonderful, active, controlling mind that I enjoyed working with in a human way. And so I knew that meditation was going to be the key. And finally, one day, early 20s, I started to meditate. And what I tell people is find something, any kind of guided imagery, guided meditation, I'm a proponent of a very active guided meditation. I think the more that you follow somebody who's very active in guiding you through imagery and symbolic imagery, I think that helps expand your mind a lot faster than just focusing on a word or chanting. But again, devotional type meditations, but to each their own. But for a seeker, somebody who's looking to connect in a very guided way, I think guided imagery meditation is probably one of the most powerful to start unlocking those pathways to receive information. So every time we meditate, we're sending up an antenna. It's like fireworks are going up out of our energetic field, right? And so we not only call in our angels, our guides, the collectives we're working with, extraterrestrials, if that's a part of if your soul timeline has that connection, and even fifth dimensional stuff. And this is where, people talk about protecting yourself and being careful, because fifth dimensional beings don't have much more awareness than third dimensional beings. So stating intentions to connect to the highest and most loving guides, angels, beings of your collective to guide you through each meditation. So this is what I did. I found somebody's meditations that just worked for me, and very quickly I went very deep. I thought you had to almost be knocked out into those deep theta stages to have a connected experience. And I'd find myself doing hour-long meditations where I was in such deep meditation that I could barely feel my heart beat, and I'd breathe maybe once every 5 minutes, and realize that wasn't the level I needed to be at to be connected to these guiding factors, and so transitioned out of those really deep, like don't feel your body, don't move, to I want to be able to hear my kids running down the hallway, have my husband yell to me from the kitchen, and be able to come out and then go right back in. That's the level of engagement you need to be at when your body starts making those little subtle twitches, yet you can still hear and sense everything in your external world, but be very hyper aware to your internal world.
I can relate to that. Entering the silence is important, and I like guided meditations to a point, and then, with yours, it seemed like it'd be educational, but I generally like to, have a little guidance and then go into silence myself. But, again, everyone has to have their own level of stuff. So you started.
Yeah, when you're first experiencing, it's nice to have a full beginning to end guided, right? If you're trying to achieve something, or if you're just starting to practice. But like you, now my entire life is a walking meditation. I've learned to be in complete contact. I no longer, sometimes I'll sit. I do a lot of path working and different things where I sit quietly, but I pick up now on everything. I can feel when my body's in resonance, and I can feel when my body's not. So, I think meditation is the starting point for people to learn what it feels like to have every single bit of your energy in your body, and then to be that clear channel to connect to guides and imagery, right? And it's all trust. So the thing that happens is people get the connection, and then they distrust that the name they heard, or the face they saw, or the message, the song that's on repeat in their head after they meditate has any meaning, right? People then distrust that any of this has any actual meaning in their life. And so that's where, once you start the process, you just have to trust absolutely everything that comes through, and be in that surrender point, and you will be guided divinely, no matter what.
Yeah, that's a thing I've always wanted. Just if I know what the truth is, or what I should be doing, I do it. But knowing that and trusting and listening to that voice is really hard. I do have a lot of personal struggles sometimes. I know certain things, and then certain actions are a little difficult. So you got to this deep level of connecting. When did the guides come through? Did you ever get names? Obviously you've had these psychic gifts and things have been happening. When did you get the feeling that there's other people, that it's being guided, that it's just not like some nebulous thing, that you got actual realization that you're going on a journey of self-discovery, but there's some unseen guidance there that's working with you? What was that experience?
Yeah. So I do specific meditations to meet guides, and so through guided imagery, you get to a room, right? Through somebody's words, they're guiding you to a room or a protected space, and then you call out to an angel or a guide, and then you're supposed to see the face or get the name. And so I would do those in the very beginning, and I'd always get something, being an artist and having always had clairvoyance, but not knowing that the pictures that ran through my head with opened eyes were actual clairvoyant gifts. I always had that. So it was very easy for me to see in closed eyes meditation. And so I would get this, but again, like we were just talking about, in the very early stages, I never had a mentor. I never had anybody around me that could validate any of this. It was a very internal exploration for me for many years. And so I say trust, and I would try my hardest to trust, but as the newbie practicer, you get these names or you get the faces, and it's just so hard to think that any of that could be completely aligned. And so very quickly after that, I think I did a past life regression with somebody who's a dear friend now. And it wasn't until that happened that I was actually, I was being taken so quickly from life to life. I mean, so quickly. And I'd walk the rainbow bridge between lives, and I'd have Master Jesus walking me to and from. And there was so much detail, so much precision, so much connection and understanding. And it was so fast that I knew internally I couldn't have been creating any of it. And that was really my awakening moment where I stepped fully into trust. And don't get me wrong, there's been milestones along the way where I'm, at a low point and just, throwing my hands up, like, help me out a little bit here. But, it was that moment really for me in that past life regression where everything just happened. It was like lifetimes and lifetimes worth of information coming through within an hour of work that I surrendered completely and knew that this was an undeniable.
This was another, you were reading another person's past lifetime.
Well, this was me. So I had a friend who put me under.
Oh.
And it was for me that I was going in and seeing. So that's really what validated that all of the things I had been seeing in my mind for the majority of my life were clairvoyant images and picking up on energy and seeing clearly instead of just daydreams or,
right.
These imaginary type interactions.
Do you have names or any particular guides, or different ones come through in different situations? Or are they just kind of like a presence, or do you have a particular connection with some sort of dimensional being? Your books and your other, folks, she's got another book that goes through a tremendous amount of multi-dimensional experiences. So we have here someone who's been on the road, who's mapped the road, and has a cogent, intelligent description. And it's, for her, it's visual and audio. And for us, it can give us the understanding and trust of how she went through her process, and to understand these various dimensional realities and ways of perception, and literally dimensions. You have a lot of stuff going on here. So I'm kind of curious, did this all kind of come through your own intuition? And I know you're stumbling along and you're getting more experience, but was there I'm trying to find out, it's real, but are you having a particular being or group of beings, or do they identify themselves, where they're from, what dimension, or is it an ancestor or guru from a
Yeah.
previous lifetime? What's happening?
Yes, to answer the question simply, yes, there's been so many different beings that I've worked with, either connected to my own path or when I read other people's energy, that come in, step in for them. And a lot of times, and again, the validation happens. I remember reading somebody, and again, I'm not somebody who studied. Rob, you asked me a lot, oh, Jenesee, do you know this group, or do you know this teacher, an earth teacher, right? Somebody, a human here with us now. And you'll ask me, do I know this or that group, or have you heard this guy or that girl? And one of the things about me is I've stayed very, I have not, and maybe it's a fault, but I don't know a lot about anybody else's process. And I think that was very helpful for me in validating when I did get certain names or images or guides. I remember reading somebody and the name Katumi came up, and I had never heard, right? And so I'm like, who is this and why is it so strong and what are they doing? I remember the first time I connected with the Brotherhood for somebody in a reading, and had no clue, but I'm seeing all these men in robes, and and they're telling me they're the Brotherhood and what they do and why they're working with this person. And so what I do is I go to spiritual Google all the time, and I'm like, what is this? Who is that? And get instantly validated over who's stepping in, what, and then see, exactly all the connections that they were making between these people and why they're working with them. So, I mean, it happens. It's always happening. I'm at a point now where, because of the last book, which I don't think we've talked about very much, the 12 Planets, 11 Bodies, One Soul. This is my 5th dimensional book. So this book, I actually astral traveled and had the experiences of going to, how do you even explain it? Different planetary existences that were in different time space. I basically went and met 12 multidimensional versions of myself that, again, time is only a constraint here on Earth. So these are parts of me that are operating within this multidimensional landscape as we speak. And so I astral traveled and was taken out of body and met all of these entities, but also the guides and the collectives. And, we call them extraterrestrial if we're talking about Palladians, or the beings from Orion, Star Belt, and, the Seven Sisters. And so, I've gotten to that level. And honestly, at this point now, I don't even ask. I'm at a point where I know what's in resonance with my field. I've done this work enough that I know I'm divinely guided every single time something's happening, and I hardly ask for names, or I hardly ask for any validation of who it is, who's guiding me. It typically just tends to manifest into my field, and this is everybody's potential. This, I'm no different from you. I'm no different from any other human here existing. I was born into this, and born pretty clearly, I think, so I could help other people walk this path, because it's such an empowering path when you know who you are in all of the cosmos, and then can know that has such meaning for you here in this human body, right? This human shell. And so I know I was born into it very young, and, wanted to explore it throughout my life up into this point, so that I could validate others and help others walk that same path, because this is every human's divine potential to feel that connected to, the micro and the macrocosm of what we live within.
Right. Well, I'm gonna, I can be a skeptic, and for those of you folks who know me, when people read Akashic records or this type of thing or that, I'm very skeptical. But All I can tell you is I'm in extreme resonance with Jenesee Roy and her information, and she is the real deal. And you know, I'd like to allow people to call you for a reading. How would they do that? I think this is important that because you have some great stuff going on here. She's, does oracle decks and teachings, and then you have your life or soul path readings and past life stuff. So if someone wants to do that, where do they go on the website, and which website? Tell them that now.
Yeah. So if I can, the best way to know what's going on with me at any moment in time is the app, and it's a completely free download app, and I own everything. There's no superior internet person doing anything within this app. It's all my stuff, and it connects directly to my website. And so I think the only thing it asks you for is an email when you go in. And again, that just goes right to me to be able to connect with you if anything's ever happening. So it's called Chakra Deck. When you go into that app, it actually has a really cool oracle reading where I have a really good friend from Australia who's a mad scientist when it comes to coding, and he and I work together to do this algorithm for the oracle deck, and I swear it is such divine guidance. I don't even read the cards for myself anymore. I just go into the app and ask a question and get the exact validation I need at any moment in time, and that's completely free. And so in that app, there's a more button, and in the more button, there's a contact, and that'll go right to me. And you can put any questions. If you're looking for a specific meditation, if something inspired you today that you want to discover more, I have hundreds of meditations on my website. I can guide you to, I try and make so much of my content free. And so, I can guide you to something that might help you if you're looking for specific guidance or to clear something, or if something's coming up in your path. But yes, if you want readings as well, you can go on that app, and it has the shop button, which will take you to show you where the books and the oracle deck and the readings are to purchase if you want to do that as well.
Okay, well, that's great. So I just went on there, folks. There's an app and everything. So, and I noticed when I first went on here a couple months ago, some of the books for free. They're very reasonably priced at $4.99. Well worth it. I recommend you get the books and start to explore the world of Jenesee Roy. I like to go into. I know you don't question it, and you have these different beings. So I still haven't gotten. Do you have any particular personality or being that you're communicating with, or are you just intuitively? They're all kind of from. Do you sense different personalities, or are these just kind of your higher self amalgamating everything, and it's coming in from you? What are you feeling there?
So yes to all of that. So I work very specifically with my high self, right? We all have a high self collective, but that high self is also the total high self of humanity that's guiding all of us as this interwoven tapestry that is the human race at any moment in time. And so I do work through that to affect the soul level vibration of people, as well as myself, since I am here as human. Does all that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So we don't have any particular being, but it's kind of coming in through you, and you're just comfortable with it.
Well, so that's one.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's one. And then I have a collective of angels that I work with. So I work with Archangel Jopiel, Gabriel, Shamuel, Raphael, Michael. It's like the seven dwarfs. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
They won't mind. And oh my goodness, Zedekiel and Uriel. There we go. So I work with those angels, and specifically with my most recent work and the gridding I've done all over North America to anchor in a lot of the multidimensional collectives, these what we would call extraterrestrial type energies that I've been working with. After I wrote that last book, I was guided to go to 5 main vortice places within North America and grid crystals to anchor the energy. I'm sure for some planetary reason, but a lot for my own work that I'm bringing through. And so the 4 main angels that have come through to really anchor this in are Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel. And they're kind of like at those north, south, east, west cornerstones, like ushering a lot of this.
Where did you go? Where did you go?
I'm sorry?
Where did you go for those places?
Yeah, so Shasta, go figure.
Okay.
I was guided to Shasta by the Palladians, Sedona by the beings from Orion, around the Great Lakes, which was the craziest trip. You guys can go, one of my blogs, you'll find it if you go into the books portion on the website, and then when you look at the 12 planets, 11 bodies, 1 soul book, it says something like explore this book more, and it'll have all these different it basically takes all the chapters of the book and puts it into just the different planets. And I call this the hell planet.
Well, welcome to Earth. Yeah.
Welcome to Earth, exactly. And the trip I took, they had me taking around, if you want to see how divine interacts in my life, read these. I call them master trips. And so I documented all these trips under this part of the book portion of the website. And so that was all around the Great Lakes. So I went from Michigan to Canada to New York, back to Ohio. And then Serpent's Mound, which is in Ohio, lower Ohio area, and Crystal Mountain in Arkansas. And so those were the five places that they wanted me to go and ground this collective energy. So the hell planet was the Great Lakes, and that was if I can, gosh, it's such a mix of genres, but it was very shamanic. They were teaching me timelines and how to see timelines and how to almost shapeshift through timelines. So it was very, very shamanic type work. It felt like the Grim Reaper was a part of this in some way, which I'm sure is just that symbolic imagery of the death and rebirth and all of that, the incarnational cycles that we go through as humans, and we think we're living separate lives, but it's really just one total timeline of a soul. And Serpent's Mound was this science planet that claimed to me, they were like these resource stealers. They had kind of used the resources of their planets, and but would go to other planets and would end up cultivating the proper balance of resources that they needed, but also they would work as interdimensionals on those planets, and Earth being a major one. And the beings from that planet would stay as interdimensionals on this planet and influence and teach the beings here about conscious consumption, if that's a great way to say it.
I got it.
And then Crystal Mountain was a very angelic connection in Arkansas, and so that connected to this this 9th dimensional angelic energy, and gosh, that was just amazing. That trip was amazing.
The crystalline energies are very powerful, and I work a lot with pyramids and crystals. And pyramids, people, I sell these pyramids, you wear them on your head. They actually help balance your body and come into a harmony with the forces of the universe through the science of shape energy and stuff. So crystals and pyramids are very close to my heart. We're winding down here. I'm thinking, can we go a little bit longer than an hour?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay, I'm going to run this show a little bit longer, folks. We got too much to go over because when you come to Mount Shasta, I'm sure you've got 2 hours. Unfortunately, Jenesee's going to roll in on Friday evening. Hopefully, she makes the Friday evening program and the speaker's dinner, and then she's going to be there for Saturday, and she has to go. So I'm going to recommend for you folks who are listening or interested, you get going with her and get your readings and stuff now, she may be able to offer that at the Shasta event, but I think her time's going to be short. I'm not sure how much that's going to happen. But what are you going to take us through in the, if you have carte blanche to do whatever you want. You'll lead us through some meditations or some maybe breaking some old stagnant energy, or where are we going to go with your conference at the conference, your 2-hour presentation without spilling too many beans?
Yeah, I'm going to pretend like I know what I'm doing already. So I think we connected in January, correct? Right around January, maybe early February,
Yep.
And began discussing this. And so this is how I know the collective around who's coming is changing so drastically from month to month, because each month I get downloads of what I think is going to be the presentation, and then the next month it's completely shifted. And so, as somebody who works with the human energy field and really helping people to align to their most authentic truths as humans, I really tap into that soul container, right, to help people shift their soul vibration here as a human so they can start resonating more in alignment with their highest self, their highest purpose. And so because I do that, and that's how I like to work, as you know, it could be one person that comes in that's got a super strong energy field and need, and I completely am shifting into, a whole new direction. So I really leave it. The way I like to work best is to not plan anything, but I have a feeling this crowd is going to be, let's just say, needy in a really good way, a way I love, that I a lot of times, if I don't plan anything or don't put at least a PowerPoint together with, a slide with a title on it to keep me on track, I will it's like a spaghetti and meatballs workshop. Like it'll be so messy. You'll have sauce all over your face by the end of it, because I'll just be bouncing, from point to point to try and address every single soul vibration there. So I keep it really open at this point. I know there's going to be a lot of activations. That's something that anytime I work with a big group, the collectives that I work with Palladian collectives a lot, and they really want to see humanity. And I shouldn't say it that way. Palladian collectives that I work with help work with me to really shift the emotional body. So humans are so stuck in such a limited range of emotions and get so stagnant in repeating patterns in their lives because of emotions. And so I know there will be lots of attention on doing processes and activations to the human energetic body, for sure.
Well, that's really good. I want to say you're going to do fine. There's nothing wrong with the PowerPoint. I bounce all over the place too. You're sounding pretty, like Raymond said, you don't have any ahs or ums. You know what you're talking about. You're speaking clearly, and I'm very excited. I know that our members are going to be very positive and are going to be very much more advanced into understanding and listening to this stuff. My stuff, although I am into the cover up and all the deep state and all that stuff that we do have to deal with society, I'm very aware of it. But I really need to move away from, even though I'm an expert in it, I'm moving away more into the positive declarations of truth and to give people the context of what's happening. So I work with Cobra and myself, and Louis Martens also is very big on activations, which means the ground crew, and this has been going on since the late 40s and 50s with George King, where the extraterrestrials need human conduits in various locations. And I've been going to sacred retreats or former contact sites of the Great White Brotherhood from times in the past of ancient sacred sites. And this is where the Space Brothers and the Masters come together over the group of people who've made the effort. They've thought about this trip. They've got the money together. They make a big effort, a big sacrifice, and they come to South America or to wherever we're going, Egypt or whatever, and the masters reward that. The soul time is actually well spent because the energetics of the clearing that take place. When I'm with Louis, we have some spaceships. These the guides are here. They're going to do this and that. And we do specific meditations. They've done things where they say, we're going to put a cesium or a calcium crystal in your hand to imbibe into your heart. I can feel a hot circle on my hands. So this is a 3D physical experience where the extraterrestrials, and I don't want to think of these as just foreigners, physical bodies, ultra-dimensionals, superluminals, beings beyond, they have corporeal form within their own dimension. We may not be able to see them. We may not have a understanding of what they look like in their own dimension, but the energy and the love is still there. So I know with you, with Louis, and with the group that we have there, with Omnic, we're going to have a tremendous amount of overshadowing, as it's called, being in the shadow of the mountain itself, which is one of the largest galactic ports on the planet, and an ancient Lemurian site. I'll be talking about Lemurian stuff too, but this type of activation that you're talking about is very important and is very real. And I am a very good talent scout. If people look at my stuff and they want to look at my thing and who do I believe and what's going on, I have different, opinions about people. I generally keep it private, but most of the speakers I've had have been, very sincere. Maybe not, everyone's not always 100% right or accurate, but I highly endorse you and your mission and what you're going to be sharing there. So it's really good. I wanted to go into now, if I could, we talked about processes, your education, your tapes, your books, your Oracle deck, how to contact you for readings. I'd like to go into a little bit of the multidimensional things, some of the highlights from some of those books and what you took from it. I mean, for some of us who aren't psychic, it must just be, so amazing to just see and hear. And it's like a movie screen in your head, which you mentioned takes a long time to process. And for me, I was having a lot of astral journeys with the Pleiadians in my early days. And it was all out of my body. Same thing. Dr. Fred Bell wouldn't tell me anything, even though he was my mentor. But I was having spaceships and lights follow me down the canyons of Laguna Beach. I was up on the hill, and he was a little higher on the hill. And I would go up there late at night and have all these experiences. And it's very hard to put into words. It took me many years to fully understand the nature of those contacts and the information that was transmitted. And it seems to me, I mean, you've done it so naturally and easily as, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's a little bit envious of your connection to spirit. Share with us, I guess, the multidimensional experiences and some of the journeys that you took that clarified some things. Or maybe you can just take us through some different dimensions descriptions or something. I just kind of want to get a grasp of, let the audience get a grasp of your knowledge and your experiences in these higher dimensional planes. Like it seemed like they were taking you through like a wormhole or a vortex, and then I guess someone would nudge you from the side and you'd be pushed out into an experience. Any of those particular ones you want to share that might be good for the people? Okay.
Yeah. So I think because I've held so many Palladian timelines, this is basically 1/3 of the book is my experience on a planet that I called the planet of peace and connection. And just so the audience knows a little bit about what happened for me, I believe, again, I'm sorry, timelines are hard for me, but I think this happened to me in 2015, in August of 2015. I had an experience where I had actually just finished writing the second book, and it was a complete handwritten channel book. And I thought it took about 30 days to write this book. And as soon as I was done, I shelved the book, I put it away, and I thought I was done done experiencing for a long time, because to channel a lot of information usually takes you out of your it takes your vibration out of the human space for a while, and so you need to reground as a human to reintegrate. And for me, it wasn't the case. Like a week later, I started being pulled from my body, and I originally had no clue why, anything that was happening. And as you read the book, I documented everything that I experienced.
No, I just want to interject here.
Yeah.
So here we have Jenesee, who's like living this normal outer life, and she's got her kids and her husband in the backyard. It's a nice sunny day in Ohio, and all of a sudden she starts slipping into these reveries of, somehow they're taking you in time and experience, and you're coming back seamlessly, drinking lemonade or giving your kids some food, snacks. I mean, it's just a very, I think for some of us surreal, but the natural way you present it is amazing. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want to share that.
That's the beauty of the book process, I guess, is I could. So this all happened to me, right, as you're explaining it, and I was taken out of body multiple times. And in the very beginning, I really had no clue. This was my first real detailed, and it started remote viewing. And then as I became more acclimated to the higher energy fields and could sustain the higher frequencies, I started actually leaving my body, astral traveling, and being able to interact with these different interdimensional landscapes. And so the difference between remote viewing and astral traveling is that remote viewing, I would use the eyes of my body that was in existence on that planet at that time, and I'd be seeing what had happened, and I couldn't interact. Where astral traveling, you're there in astral form and able to kind of decide what you experience and what you do, because you're now a movement within that landscape. And so, like you said, it would happen, and it was so interesting to me. I don't think something I maybe documented in the book, but how I started to know where I was going, and the deeper I was going into these experiences, is it was very like Star Trek, when they go into warp speed. It felt very much like I was in a tube and light would stream past me, and it was like I was on this roller coaster. And in the beginning, I knew I went up and then down and then up and then down, and then I'd make a big round curve to the left, and then I'd go up and down and then to curve to the right. And it was always the same exact pattern, but I'd go deeper and deeper, and sometimes I'd stop earlier. And so it was just really interesting. So there was some kind of rhyme or reason to this wormhole experience I would go through every time. But like you said, when I get to whatever this point was, in the very beginning, the very first time I went to this Palladian planet that I called the planet of peace and connection, I literally had to get nudged, because it felt very much like the inside of an airplane, with almost like portals, right, where I could almost get a glimpse of whatever I was going to be entering, but didn't. And the first time I was very not concerned, but didn't know what was happening. So I actually had to get pushed by the what I would call angelics that were bringing me through this interdimensional gateway, I guess. And so the first experience on this Palladian planet was probably one of the most transformational, like life-changing. I can still, as I sit here and just bring this energy back into my field and think about it, I can be in connection with this tree. So the first thing that I dropped down to this landscape, and it's very different. I mean, the colors are just heightened, but it's very similar to a natural landscape here, like forested trees, although they looked very different. And I remember having this first experience was just me and this tree engaging, and I literally could absorb my body into this tree, and I can even see the details of this bark. I don't know how I described it. It's like this old oak and almost like birch combined, and I could see and sense through the tree, and I could interweave my energy into this tree to where I was the tree, and I could feel the tree, sending its requests to be fed and nourished, and it was just this really unbelievable exchange. And that was my very first experience astral traveling, and of course I get taken out very quickly from this, and then get brought back to this planet when I can hold the frequency longer. And so on this one planet, I experienced things with these flowers that they were like the size of huge New York style buildings right here on Earth, and these flowers were just so tall, and I'd watch beings move into these flowers and make this energetic exchange where flowers were actually purifying the auric field and the energetic field with their frequency of these beings. And it was this, just like here on Earth, how we have a harmonious relationship with trees, how we breathe out what they need and they basically exhale what we need. And that's kind of what was happening with the flowers of this planet, but it was so much more, it was medicinal. And they were teaching me that, Earth has the same capacity, but, we're basically destroying the life force of these flowers, like we do a lot of things here on Earth, because we think that by compressing them into essential oil blends or whatever is going to be this potent frequency, but it's the life of the plant that gives it the healing power, right, in the exchange. And I remember after I had experienced this, I walked around Earth and would have these connections in my physical reality with flowers that I could sense and feel the want for them to heal my body, and just being in a state of resonance that these things were living conscious beings that wanted to exchange healing energies with my body, and that there was a reason why they had certain colors and why a smell smelled delicious to me one time and another flower smell did not. It was as if that aphrodisiac of a smell was there to heal me one day, but if I didn't enjoy it the next day, that it wasn't there to heal me. And so there were lots of, with this Palladian planet, there were so many similarities between their planet and Earth and the lessons that they had learned and cultivated on their planet with their relationship to nature that was just so profound when I, re-engaged in my life back on Earth. And those are just two examples, but there was also, and this is what blew my mind, I had never heard of an aquifer in my life before, very closeted Orange County girl. And I remember them taking me to this underground cavern that was producing, oh gosh, I'm not even going to be able to say the word now. I use my mind, piezoelectric. I don't know if that's a word or not.
Piezoelectric is when you apply pressure to crystals, it will create an electronic a pulse. So that's how watches are run on crystals. And so it's pressure on crystals.
So perfect, because at the end of these chambers, there's like an underground tunnel, and I called it the limestone cave. It showed it to me as being green, but I now know that was just to get me to understand I was working with limestone or seeing limestone. And there I could see the water in this underground cavern being compressed through this stone, and there were Herkimer diamonds set up in a grid on the wall, and there was this undulating current that would go back and forth over the limestones, and it was warm. It had like this heated almost mist that was in this cavern, and I could see, and I watched a being later on. They showed this to me, and then later on they brought me in from a few times later, I actually followed somebody, a being from the planet down there, and watched what was happening, and I saw these Herkimer diamonds being replaced in the wall as if they were like batteries. And then I watched this being go up to the ground above and replace almost in like a flight path, right? The lights that line a flight path. This city was gridded with these crystals, and it was this exchange. And they had basically, there was this energetic dome around this city that was supplying. It was actually feeding. This is how they sustained their bodies. It was like food for their body, but it also was the energy of the city. And so there were just things that I had no concept for. And then after I witnessed it and documented, I'd actually go back to, like I said before, I go to spiritual Google and just start typing things in, and it would just blow my mind what I had experienced, that, you know, being a closeted girl who doesn't know the inner workings of a lot of our modern day technology, it would just blow my mind what I was witnessing, and it would validate what I had experienced on a really interesting level within this planet. And so this was just the Palladian planet. I mean, there were 12 of these planets that I had visited, and every planet was teaching me something to bring back for us. And it was basically, they said, anybody who reads this book, although you might not connect to one planet, there is a divine connection to that everybody will find somewhere within this book. And so, and that basically realigns a component of your timeline or your multidimensional self through the reading the words and the vibrations that came through this book. There was so much. I mean, there's just so many beautiful things. That one of my favorites that I still don't think I have all the wisdom from, and I don't know if you got to this part or not. It was on the planet of peace and connection, but that domed energy grid that was over the city. They had me on the outside of this dome at one point, and the molecules of my body were separate. Everything was like a tiny little ball. I had no form, but I could feel the totality of myself within each and every one of these balls, and these balls would kind of ping off of me, go have an experience, and then come back to me, and I would be able to sense into this minute detail of this part of myself, and I would get resonance and understanding, and I have an experience with just this one tiny molecule of myself that was shooting off of my field and then coming back, and then as I stepped through the domed grid of the city, I actually became a form. I became a singular form, and they were trying to teach me about this is who we are, these tiny molecules of experience that make up the one whole. And I mean, gosh, to try and like understand that and capture that into words was one of the hardest things I had to do in that whole experience of then documenting that. So gosh, there was just so many so many.
Yeah. So, are you still there? Did I lose you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you have these amazing experiences, which are very difficult, but the way you explain them and kind of the mission and the message that you get, you've integrated very, very well. So, I just want to thank you for being able to do this. It's really good. A lot of people really need this type of information and what you're sharing. So
thank you so much.
I've just begun to explore your stuff. I've been very, very busy. I'm getting trying to get this conference to be well attended. A lot of you people went to Constant Contact. A lot of you people going to other things. We are having face-to-face contact with extraterrestrials. We're having advanced information of a positive and a spiritual nature. We're getting down to the reality that the space beings are just like us. The reason they can't land is we're not ready to actually benefit from their landing, and our political situation has made it difficult so that there's some danger for them and possibly for those that they contact, but that's changing. Contact needs to take place. We need to move forward. So by coming to this Shasta event, this conference, you're going to you're going to find that you're not the black sheep, that there's other people, and that the information coming here is not in fear. We're not talking about QAnon. We're not talking about the next false flag attack. We're not talking about the deep state and the currency revaluation reset, although we hope that all of these things can become successful. But we know that the truth is not going to be revealed by the government. In fact, I'm going to be releasing some information here. The members of the Great White Brotherhood of the Interior Government have they've tasked me to bring a level of understanding and calm to the extraterrestrial situation and for people to understand what's going on. I've also been asked to help to create what are called external retreats of the Great White Brotherhood. These are places where people can go near the focal points of the Agartha Network or the Interior Government, the Shining Ones, the Great White Brotherhood, or the Confederation groups that are here, the Pleiadians, the Venusians, the Benevolent Orions. Many different groups are here, and they have been here before. And the way that the teachings took place were in mystery schools. And these mystery schools that were in Egypt and South America and various other locations throughout the millennium have been, through time and through geological changes, have been changed, buried, destroyed, or covered with water. But there are those on the surface now that are going to be reestablished. And the idea is to have groups go there. I've been taking journeys down to South America. We go to Lake Titicaca. We do on these different excursions. And we got to travel and stay in hotels. And they're fairly expensive because you got to get there and all that stuff. But we have Louis' land down there. We're going to be developing it. And the intent is to create a place where people can bathe under these activations. The type of thing where we can get Jenesee to bring a group down here, and in conjunction with the masters and the guides next to Lake Titicaca, we can have these tremendous vibrational experiences that I've experienced, and that for those of you who are sensitive and are ready to have some of the upgrades to our auric and our consciousness fields, that's what is hoping to take place. So we're going to be creating locations on the surface of the planet, one in Mount Shasta, one in Bolivia, on Lake Titicaca, and again, one in Honduras. Eventually, we're looking for people who want to be involved in this, and there's a certain aspect of this is financial. We're going to be discussing that at the Shasta conference. I will not be involved in the financial. I don't like to handle money for other things. I don't like to be involved with that. But I will support the building and be involved in the property. We're looking at some property here in Mount Shasta now. So the idea is that eventually we have Earth teachers like Jenesee and Louis with the overshadowing, and then eventually we will have some extraterrestrials who will come to these conferences, either clandestinely and eventually openly, to teach the conscious management of our life force energies. And this has to do with the chakras, the multidimensional nature, and under the tutelage and the guidance of the masters. Louis is in telepathic communication. So he will be given guidance and even personal instruction when these classes begin. And eventually they'll be open to the public in larger scales. So that's a little plan that's coming up in the future. I wanted to ask Jenesee once again, or I guess I want to thank you once again for coming on the show. We're doing an hour and a half. Pyramid One, I'm sorry, we're going overtime. I'm putting it on my website, so I know it's over, but this is important to get this out there. And be sure to check out the invitations that you're going to be seeing around. Check it out and see if you can want to come. We do have a few volunteer positions here and there, but they're going quick. So keep in touch with me. Keep in close contact with Jenesee. Jenesee, where do you see, do you have anything else for yourself coming up? I know you got the radio show I'm going to be on. I want everyone should check in on that. But are you doing traveling and doing workshops? I mean, say I got something together for Egypt or something, and maybe we could all bring a group of
Yeah.
people there or something. And I think I'd love to hear your channeling in Egypt. That would be amazing.
You are dead on with the energy. I'm also bringing all this through. I was told this year I had to take people to the places that we discussed earlier, Shasta, Sedona, Serpent's Mound. And so I have 3 of those on my schedule thus far. But like you said, it starts out very limited because it's going to be extremely intense work. So I'm doing retreats, and it's so interesting you discuss Lake Titicaca, because last year I was drawn desperately down there, and then the energy kind of dissipated. And I know I have work to do down there. So instead of Egypt, maybe you bring me along to that one, because the island of the sun and moon are calling me for sure.
Well, we've been doing that. You can look on my blog there and see the journey. It's amazing. I've been doing that one a lot. We're going to go to Peru exclusively next year. We may do. He does have one coming up here that goes to Lake and Moon, but we can always do Lake and Moon again. But I mean, even Bolivia, and you could take a little side journey afterwards, and we could go to Lake Titicaca possibly. You're going to connect with Louis. He doesn't speak much English, but he's a very warm, sensitive guy. He's had a lot of his experiences are physical. He was been taken beneath Lake Titicaca. There's something there called the Golden Disk of the Sun, which in our ancient megalithic site and historical lore is part of a neural network, alchemically created transmuted gold that was in place in Lemuria 77,000 years ago, and then was it was taken to Atlantis, and then when that sunk, it went to Egypt, and then it eventually made its way down to South America, and they artificially created the minor lake to cover up the ancient sites there, to cover the disk before Pizarro and the gold conquistadors came. And they have been using its radiations to help heal the planet and to reestablish the new pathways. The Earth has shifted from a masculine vortex to a feminine, which is now centered in Lake Titicaca and the Sahama Mountain. And there's a Sintamani stone, and that's a whole nother discussion there. But I'm really excited. We'll be talking in the future in the summer, and we'll see. We'll get you a package together and see if we can get you to reach out to your list and see if you can bring some people to join us. I think we're going to do 7 or 8 days in Peru, Machu Picchu, and that amazing journey. So folks, look forward to Jenesee Roy and myself working with Louis and maybe even Raymond on some of these tours where we can get the high quality teachers in the sacred locations to create these activations, and I guess we call them spiritual body clearings that can be worked on with ourselves and the guidance of the guides and the masters.
And it's work. Let me remind everybody it's work, but it is so much playful energy right now. Like, the humans are owning so much of this playful energy. So yes, it's work, but these retreats are just so divinely connected and aligned, and you just make soul connections to people that, you know, it's brothers and sisters that you've been waiting for your entire life. And when those brothers and sisters get together, it's just, you can't help but play in the energy of life. So work, but play.
All work and no play makes everybody a dull person.
Exactly.
Anyway, so I wanted to, again, just thank you. I'm looking forward to being on your show. It's next Friday. And hopefully we can get this show up, and so people can start becoming familiar with you. Jenesee, it's really wonderful. I'm going to be getting some past life readings, and I'd like to maybe get a clearing on some of the stuff we talked about before. So hold on to the call after this. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Virtual Light Radio Show signing out here from Mount Shasta, Jenesee Roy in Ohio. And be sure to check out her site or information. The new wave, the new next level of information is coming through people like Jenesee, who maybe aren't familiar with everyone else's stuff, but have their own path completely on their own. And it's, I can tell you, it's verified, it's real, and it's profound. So you have another arrow in your quiver from the Victory of Light to exhaust research and to learn new things. Thank you so much, Jenesee. Say hi to your kids. I wish I'd be able to meet them when you come to Shasta.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. I love speaking with you. You're such a wealth and inspiring person to be with every time. Thank you, Rob.
Well, thank you. You too. I'm really excited about you and your work, and I'm going to do everything I can to share you with the world, the more refined metaphysical palette that isn't just into hearing about all of the wild. There's so much stuff going into the UFO field, which is a distraction from the energy shift that's going on. And again, I'll say it, folks, Jenesee's writing style, her ability to give you the landscape and to describe the imaging, the colors, and what's taking place in the higher dimensions is very clear, and will give you the trust, as she said, and the faith to step forward into your own kind of out there stuff. And I know a lot of people tell me stories and they're not really clear and stuff, but they're having experiences. Trust. Let's not fall away from them.